What if I told you the molecule that makes a $350 bottle of Maison Francis Kurkdjian smell woody and magnetic is the exact same molecule inside a $15 Zara perfume? Not a similar molecule, not a cheaper version of it. The identical chemical compound, purchased from the same industrial suppliers at the same bulk price per kilogram, because that is not an exaggeration. The perfume industry runs on a small handful of synthetic aroma chemicals that show up at every single price point, from a $9 body spray sitting on a gas station shelf to a $400 niche fragrance locked inside a glass cabinet at Harrods. The molecules themselves do not know what bottle they are in. They do not perform differently because the label says Tom Ford instead of Zara. They do not suddenly become richer because the box is wrapped in satin ribbon. They smell the same because they are the same. Today, we are walking through 6 of the most common ingredients in modern perfumery. Chemicals that cost between $10 and $90 per kilogram at wholesale. We are going to show you exactly which cheap and expensive perfumes share them side by side, with the actual cost per kilogram on screen. By the end, you will understand what you are really paying for when you buy a luxury fragrance. And then just when you think nothing could ever justify a price premium, we will show you the one ingredient where expensive genuinely is worth it. But that reveal comes last. Let us start with the molecule hiding in plain sight inside almost every perfume you have ever owned. Ingredient number 1, linalool. If you own a single bottle of fragrance, any fragrance, you own linalool. This terpene alcohol occurs naturally in over 200 plant species, from lavender fields in Provence to rosewood forests in Brazil to basil plants growing in someone's backyard. It is one of the most abundant aromatic compounds on Earth. But the version sitting inside your Dior bottle is not extracted from a flower. It is synthesized industrially. Companies like BASF in Germany produce it in enormous batches through a chemical process called mycene hydration. The result is a pure, consistent, colourless liquid with a fresh, floral, slightly woody character and a faint citrus edge. Perfumers call linalool a floralizer. It is not the star of any composition, but it makes everything around it smell more natural, more rounded, more expensive. It smooths out transitions between the top notes and the heart of a fragrance, acting like audio equalization for your nose. The wholesale cost for synthetic linalool sits around $10 to $20 per kilogram. Now, here's where it gets interesting. You'll find linalool listed in the formula of Dior Sauvage, which retails around $120. It is in Chanel No. 5 at $165. It is in YSL Libre at $130. It is in Acqua di Gio at $90. And it is in virtually every single Zara fragrance on the shelf, from $15 to $30. The exact same compound, bought from the same type of industrial supplier, playing the exact same role in formulas that range from $15 to $200. If this were the only shared ingredient, you could call it a coincidence. But 5 more are coming, and the pattern only gets more uncomfortable. Ingredient number 2, Hedione. This is the molecule that rewrote the rules of modern perfumery. Firmenich, one of the big 4 fragrance houses that dominate the global scent industry, developed Hedione in the 1960s. Its first notable appearance was inside Dior Eau Sauvage in 1966, formulated by the legendary perfumer Edmund Rudnitzer. He used it at a concentration of just 1.8%. That tiny percentage was enough to reshape what perfume could feel like on skin. Hedione has a delicate jasmine-like quality, transparent and radiant, like light passing through clean glass. It does not hit you the way a heavy floral does. It glows. Perfumers use it to add luminosity and lift to a composition, making everything in the blend feel cleaner, more airy, and more refined. Since 1966, Hedione has spread to virtually every corner of the fragrance market. Today, it shows up in approximately 4% of the average perfume compound, though some formulas push the concentration much higher. According to industry sources, Hedione is now found in the majority of all commercially produced fragrances worldwide, from the cheapest to the most exclusive. The wholesale price is around $30 to $50 per kilogram, depending on purity grade. Firmenich version is considered the gold standard, but cheaper alternatives exist from other suppliers, and they are used widely at the budget end of the market. So when you spray a $350 bottle of Baccarat Rouge 5 and 40, and it has that luminous, transparent quality, that is Hedione. When you spray a $20 drugstore fragrance from Coty, and it has that same clean brightness, that is also Hedione. The molecule does not discriminate based on your budget. It brightens both formulas identically, and yet Hedione is still just one piece of the puzzle. The next ingredient is even more revealing, because an entire luxury brand was literally built on selling this one single chemical in a bottle by itself. Ingredient number 3, ISO-E Super. This is the most widely used woody aroma chemical in the history of modern perfumery. IFF, the American fragrance giant, invented it in 1973. It smells dry, cedar-like, and subtly ambery, with an almost supernatural transparency that is hard to pin down. It makes things smell expensive without being identifiable as any specific natural material. Perfumers sometimes call it a magic additive, because you can add it to almost any formula and the composition immediately improves. More depth, more warmth, more something. The global production of ISO-E Super runs about 3,000 tons per year. That's 3 million kilograms annually. The wholesale cost is approximately $90 per kilogram, 9 cents per gram, for the most popular woody chemical on the planet. Dior's Fahrenheit, launched in 1988, was one of the first mainstream fragrances to use ISO-E Super at overdose levels. It made up roughly 25% of the entire formula. 2 years later, Lancôme Tresor followed with 18%. Both became iconic. Both built their woody backbone on a molecule that costs less per kilogram than a pair of movie tickets. Then, in 2006, perfumer Geza Schoen launched a brand called Eccentric Molecules, with a fragrance called Molecule 01. The concept was audacious. Molecule 01 contains one single ingredient. Just ISO-E. Super dissolved in alcohol. Nothing else. No top notes, no heart, no base. One molecule in a bottle. It retails for around $135. Let me do the math for you. A kilogram of ISO-E Super costs $90 at wholesale. A 100 milliliter bottle of Molecule 01 contains roughly 50 to 70 grams of compound, which puts the raw material cost per bottle at somewhere around $4.50 to $6.30. That's a markup of roughly 2,100% on a single chemical compound. People buy it enthusiastically because the marketing positioned it as minimalist, avant-garde, and intellectual. The dream tax doesn't always look like a celebrity endorsement. Sometimes it looks like a white box with a chemistry diagram on it. Meanwhile, the same ISO-E Super sits inside Zara's woody fragrances at $25, inside drugstore colognes at $15, and inside Axe body spray at $9. The same compound, the same 9 cents per gram. Different stories, wildly different prices. That's the kind of number that should make anyone reconsider what luxury ingredients actually mean. And the next 3 chemicals follow the exact same pattern. Ingredient number 4, coumarin. Coumarin delivers that sweet, warm, hay-like note that anchors most gourmand and oriental fragrances. It occurs naturally in tonka beans, cinnamon cassia, and sweet clover. Like everything else on this list, the version inside your perfume bottle is synthetic, produced at scale by chemical manufacturers. The wholesale cost runs about $15 to $25 per kilogram. Cheap enough to show up everywhere, and it does. You will find coumarin inside Guerlain's Shalimar, widely considered one of the greatest fragrances ever composed. First launched in 1925, it is still in production and still retailing at $120 or more per bottle. Coumarin provides the sweet, powdery warmth that forms Shalimar's structural foundation alongside vanilla and incense. You'll also find the identical coumarin inside budget colognes sitting on a Walmart shelf for $12. Same molecule, same olfactory contribution, same vendor catalogues. The Guerlain costs 10 times more. The coumarin inside each bottle came from the same type of factory. What makes this particularly striking is how coumarin and vanillin work together. Most warm, amber-heavy fragrances across every price tier use this pair as their backbone. The combination creates that familiar, cozy sweetness that consumers associate with luxury and sophistication. But the raw materials cost is functionally identical, whether the bottle says Guerlain or Great Value. The pricing at the designer level starts to feel less like luxury and more like theatre when you realise the structural backbone costs the same at every tier, and the next ingredient makes that point even harder to ignore. Ingredient number 5, vanillin. Vanillin is the single most recognisable scent molecule in all of perfumery. It is a phenolic aldehyde that reproduces the characteristic aroma of natural vanilla, with greater purity, greater stability, and at an almost absurdly lower cost. Wholesale price for synthetic vanillin runs around $12 to $20 per kilogram. You can find it on bulk chemical platforms like Alibaba for roughly $12 per unit. For comparison, natural vanilla absolute costs over $1,000 per kilogram when it is even available. Some harvests push it closer to $2,000 per kilogram. The natural version is extracted from fermented vanilla bean pods grown primarily in Madagascar, and the supply chain is plagued by weather disruptions, labour issues, and fraud. Most perfumes, including most luxury perfumes, use synthetic vanillin. This is not controversial within the industry. It is just not discussed publicly because it disrupts the narrative of rare, precious ingredients. Tom Ford's Tobacco Vanille is perhaps the clearest example of this disconnect. The name literally contains the word vanille. The retail price is $350 for 50 millilitres. The vanillin inside that bottle represents a few cents of synthetic material per application. The tobacco accord is also synthetic. The entire scent profile is built on widely available industrial compounds that any fragrance house in the world can purchase. Across the aisle, Zara's Warm Vanilla, or any of their gourmand offerings, use the same molecular form of vanillin in a $25 bottle. The sweetness on your wrist is the same sweetness. The compound does not upgrade itself when poured into a darker, heavier bottle. For $350, you are buying the Tom Ford name, the minimalist black glass, and the boutique experience. For $25, you are buying the scent. The vanillin does not know the difference. Ingredient number 6, ethylene brassylate. Most people have never heard this name, but you have smelled it thousands of times without realizing it. Ethylene brassylate is a synthetic musk, one of the most widely used base note chemicals in the global fragrance industry. It gives perfumes that clean, skin-like warmth that lingers on your clothes and in your hair hours after the top notes have faded. It is the reason your fragrance still smells like you at the end of a long day. The wholesale cost? Roughly $15 to $30 per kilogram. Inexpensive even by aroma chemical standards. Ethylene brassylate appears in Chanel Chance, in Dior J'adore, in Tom Ford's entire private blend line, in Jo Malone's best sellers, and in practically every drugstore fragrance you've ever picked up on impulse while waiting at a checkout counter. It is the invisible thread connecting a $150 Chanel bottle to a $15 body mist. Same molecular structure, same olfactory function, same supplier catalogues, different retail environments, different price tags. When synthetic musks like ethylene brassylate were first developed, they democratized something that used to require animal-derived ingredients like natural musk, which was extracted from the glands of the musk deer at enormous ethical and financial cost. Today, synthetic musks are better performing, more consistent, and available to every brand regardless of budget. The playing field at the base note level is completely flat. Now lay all 6 of these ingredients side by side. Linalool, $10 to $20 per kilogram. Hedione, $30 to $50 per kilogram. ISO-E Super, $90 per kilogram. Coumarin, $15 to $25 per kilogram. Vanillin, $12 to $20 per kilogram. Ethylene brassylate, $15 to $30 per kilogram. Together, these 6 chemicals form the structural backbone of modern perfumery across every single tier. Your $350 niche fragrance and a $15 mass market alternative are built from the same molecular palette. The proportions shift. The artistic composition differs. The concentration of fragrance oil varies, but the building blocks themselves are identical. Bought from the same chemical suppliers, manufactured in the same types of plants, shipped in the same drums. So, if the raw materials cost pennies per application, regardless of price tier, what exactly are you paying for when you hand over $350 for a 50 milliliter bottle? You're paying for the perfumer's years of training and creative judgment. You're paying for the brand's marketing department, the celebrity endorsement contract, the glossy campaign in Vogue, and the commission that the department store sales associate earns when they convince you to buy. You're paying for the bottle, which in some cases literally costs more to produce than the liquid it contains. And above all, you're paying for the story, the mythology, the dream tax. Whether that story is worth $350 to you is genuinely a personal decision, but you deserve to understand the chemistry before you make it. Now, everything we've covered so far applies to synthetic ingredients, and for all 6 of them, there's no meaningful quality difference between the version in a cheap perfume and the version in an expensive one. Same molecule is same molecule. Chemistry doesn't negotiate. But there is one ingredient where that rule breaks completely. One material where the gap between synthetic and natural is so vast that they might as well be different substances. And it's the one the luxury market leans on hardest. Oud. Real oud oil is extracted from the heartwood of Aquilaria trees after they have been infected by a specific type of mold called Phyllophora parasitica. The tree produces a dark, intensely fragrant resin as a defense mechanism, and distilling that resin into oil requires somewhere between 20 and 100 kilograms of infected wood to yield just 12 milliliters of pure oud. Less than 2% of wild Aquilaria trees develop the infection naturally. The species is listed as endangered under CITES international trade regulations. The price reflects that scarcity. First-grade wild agarwood hit $290,000 per kilogram in 2026. Even standard grade pure oud oil runs between $20,000 and $60,000 per kilogram, making it gram for gram more expensive than gold. Now compare that to synthetic oud. A kilogram of synthetic oud accord, typically built from molecules like javanol, cashmerin, and iso-E super, costs somewhere between $50 and $250. Real oud can cost over 1,000 times more than its synthetic imitation. And here is where it genuinely matters. Real oud has a complexity that no synthetic blend can replicate. Natural oud evolves on skin over hours, shifting from smoky and medicinal in the opening to sweet, honeyed, and almost fruity in the dry down, with animal, leathery, and woody facets that change based on the tree's geographic origin, the specific species, how old the tree was, and how long the fungal infection had been developing. Cambodian oud smells completely different from Indian Assam oud, which smells completely different from Vietnamese oud. Each one is a geographic and biological fingerprint. Synthetic oud smells like oud. One flavour: flat, consistent, pleasant, sure, but static. So when you see Tom Ford Oud Wood at $350 and wonder whether it contains real agarwood oil, the answer is almost certainly no. The economics do not work. If a perfume contains genuine oud oil in meaningful concentration, the bottle needs to retail well above $200 for a 50 milliliter size just to cover the raw material. If it is priced under $150, it is synthetic. That is not a criticism, it is just math. If you want real oud, look at Middle Eastern attar houses and artisanal suppliers who specialise in pure oud distillation. Expect to pay accordingly. Oud is the one ingredient in perfumery where the price premium reflects an actual, measurable, irreplaceable difference in what you are getting. 6 ingredients shared across every price point. 1 ingredient where the gap is real and enormous. The next time someone tells you their $350 perfume is worth the price because of what is inside the bottle, ask them which ingredients. For 6 of the most common chemicals in that formula, the cost per kilogram would not even cover a pizza. Smell what you love. Just know what is inside. YouTube thinks this is the video you should watch next. Click it. And if this changed how you think about fragrance, subscribe. We pull apart a different industry every single week.